I was 9 years old, the first time I understood that I wasn't enough. Not in the way children sometimes feel temporarily unloved. The way you feel when you're scolded for breaking something and then it passes. This was different. This was the slow, settling kind of understanding. The kind that doesn't arrive all at once but accumulates quietly until one day you realize it has been living inside you for years. My cousin Daniel came to visit that summer. He was 11, 2 years older than me, and he had a confidence I didn't know how to describe back then. He walked into rooms like he belonged in them. He shook hands with adults. He answered questions without hesitation. One evening, during dinner, someone asked him to name the capitals of African countries. He started listing them one after another. Adults laughed in amazement. My mother watched him with an expression I had never seen directed at me. "You see that?" She said later that night after Daniel had gone to bed. She wasn't angry. That was almost the worst part. She sounded impressed. Bad boy, that's what happens when you apply yourself. I had gotten 83 on my math test that week. I thought 83 was good. I remember standing at the sink washing dishes afterward. The water was running. Plates knocked softly against each other. And somewhere between the soap bubbles and the sound of water, I made a decision. I would work harder. I would become the person she looked at that way. The problem with deciding to earn love is that it teaches you love is something you earn. I didn't understand that then. I only understood the equation. Do better, work harder, achieve more, then maybe you'll be enough. So I threw myself into everything. I studied late, joined clubs, entered competitions, chased certificates, collected achievements the way some children collect toys, and for a while it seemed to work. I still remember bringing home a report card filled with top grades. My mother smiled. She called relatives. She showed them the results. For 2 days, I felt important. For 2 days, I felt seen. Then Sunday came. After church, she heard about another boy. "Did you hear about Adrian?" she asked during dinner. I shook my head. Full scholarship to a prestigious boarding school. I nodded. At that moment, my second place science fair certificate was hanging on the refrigerator, and just hours earlier she had praised it. Now nobody mentioned it. She kept talking about Adrian, how competitive the scholarship was, how impressive it was, how disciplined he must be. I stared at my food. The certificate behind me suddenly felt smaller. By the end of dinner, it felt worthless. A few weeks later, I quietly took it off the refrigerator and put it in a drawer. Nobody noticed. Not a single person asked where it went. That was when I started learning a dangerous lesson. Achievements have expiration dates. No matter what I accomplished, someone else would always accomplish something bigger. At 13, I scored 92 on an exam. I came second. The boy who came first scored 96 when the results were announced. My classmates congratulated me. I smiled. But on the journey home, my stomach hurt. I kept replaying the missing 8 marks that night. I hid the result sheet in my school bag. My mother eventually found it. 92? She said. For a moment, hope rose inside me. And she asked, "Who got the highest score?" I remember staring at her silently. I wasn't upset because she asked. I was upset because I already knew she would. I knew before she opened her mouth. I knew before I walked through the front door. The comparison had become predictable, like rain clouds gathering before a storm. When I was 15, I developed terrible anxiety before exams. Nobody knew, not my friends, not my teachers, not my family. The night before results were released, I could barely sleep. I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of disappointing people. There was a difference. Failure meant making mistakes. Disappointment meant becoming less worthy, and somehow in my mind, those two things became the same. I would lie awake imagining conversations, imagining questions, imagining comparisons, imagining someone else's child doing better. My classmates celebrated good grades. I survived them. There were times I sat in school bathrooms, staring at report cards, calculating whether my results were impressive enough to avoid criticism. Not whether they were good, whether they were enough. Enough became the most exhausting word in my life. I want to be fair to my mother. She was not a cruel woman. She worked harder than anyone I have ever known. Double shifts, financial sacrifices, constant stress.
She carried responsibilities most people never saw. Looking back, I understand something I couldn't understand as a child. My mother had dreams that life never allowed her to finish. Dreams interrupted by responsibility. Dreams buried beneath survival. She wanted more for me than she had for herself. The tragedy wasn't that she didn't love me. The tragedy was that she loved me in the only language she knew: expectation. When I was 17, I got accepted into university. A good university, a scholarship that covered most of the costs. I was ecstatic. I called her immediately. "Mom, I got in." "Which program?" I told her. "And that's a good program?" "Yes." There was a pause, then she mentions another relative studying medicine overseas. I listened quietly. After the call ended, I sat alone at a bathroom stall, and for the first time, something inside me changed. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I simply accepted a truth. This will never be enough. Not because my achievement wasn't good, because comparison has no finish line. There is always another person, another child, another accomplishment, another reason to keep reaching. University changed me. Not because of classes, because I met people who weren't raised the way I was. People who failed exams and still liked themselves. People who changed careers without shame. People whose parents celebrated effort instead of outcomes. I envied them, not their grades, not their opportunities, their freedom. The freedom to be imperfect, the freedom to fail, the freedom to exist without constantly proving something. That realization hurt more than any comparison ever had, because I understood how much of my life had been built around burning approval. I graduated with honors, built a career, moved into my own apartment, created a stable life, yet somehow a part of me remained 9 years old. Still standing beside a sink, still washing dishes, still hoping to hear the words I needed. Years later, therapy forced me to confront something uncomfortable. My therapist asked, "What if your mother never says what you're waiting to hear?" I hated the question, because I had built so much of my future around the possibility that one day she finally would. What if that day never came? What if healing required letting go of the verdict entirely? I spent months thinking about that, maybe years. Then my mother became ill, nothing catastrophic, a manageable heart condition. I went home to help. One evening I was making soup. She sat quietly at the kitchen table. The sunlight was coming through the window. Neither of us was talking. Then she suddenly said, "You turned out well." 4 words, no comparison, no conditions, no mention of someone else's child. Just 4 words. I kept stirring the soup. "Thank you," I replied, and something unexpected happened. The words mattered, but not the way I imagined they would. At 9 years old, I believed those words would change everything. At 15, I believed they would heal every wound. At 17, I believed they would finally make me enough. But standing in that kitchen, I realized something. The child who needed those words had been waiting for decades, and while he was waiting, he had grown up, built a life, learned who he was, learned that worth is not something another person grants you. Not even a parent, especially not a parent. My mother's approval was meaningful, but it was no longer necessary for my survival, and that was the real healing. I think about children who grow up the way I did, children who are loved but constantly measured, children whose achievements are acknowledged only briefly before being compared to someone else's, children who spend years reaching for a moving target. Many of them become successful adults, but success does not automatically heal comparison. Sometimes the hardest lesson comes afterward, learning that your value was never supposed to depend on outperforming another human being. Learning that your life is not a competition against your cousins, classmates, friends, or siblings, learning that being enough and being perfect are not the same thing. Nobody gives you a certificate for learning that lesson. Nobody throws a graduation ceremony for it, but it may be the most important education of all. And some evenings, when I am standing alone in my own kitchen, cooking dinner after an ordinary day, I think about that little boy who believed love had to be earned. I wish I could sit beside him at that sink. I wish I could tell him what took me decades to learn. You do not have to become the best child in the room. You do not have to outperform everyone around you. You do not have to spend your life chasing a finish line that keeps moving. You were already enough before the comparison started. And you are enough now.